Story number 1. Shadows in the Underground. I remember it like it was yesterday, the chill of the wind as it whispered through the empty subway tunnels of our small suburban town in the United States. It was the fall of 2011, and I had just started working the night shift at the subway security office. At 24, fresh out of college, I was eager and naive, unaware of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. My partner, Jake, a 29-year-old seasoned guard, always had a skeptical smile whenever I brought up local legends. But that night, everything changed. We were monitoring the CCTV when we noticed a strange glitch on the screen. It flickered, showing an empty platform, and then, for a split second, a figure draped in shadows. We assumed it was a technical glitch, but an unsettling feeling lingered. 2 nights later, a report came in. A young woman, barely 20, found unconscious on the same platform. No signs of foul play, no medical explanation, she just never woke up again. The locals started whispering about this subway specter, a ghost rumored to haunt the tunnels. I laughed it off, until I saw it myself. Walking through the tunnels on patrol, I felt a sudden drop in temperature. My breath fogged in the air, and I heard the faint sound of someone crying. Following the sound, I reached the platform. There, in the flickering light, stood a figure, a young girl, no older than 16, dressed in clothes that seemed decades out of fashion. She looked at me, eyes filled with an unspeakable sadness, and then vanished. I couldn't shake off the encounter. Digging into the archives, I discovered a series of unexplained deaths dating back to the 1980s, all young people, all found in the same state as the recent victim. Each case was closed without a clear cause of death. The turning point came when another guard, Mike, a 26-year-old tech enthusiast, experienced a similar encounter. He was a skeptic, always looking for logical explanations, but this shook him. Together, we decided to investigate after hours. Armed with cameras and EMF detectors, we explored the tunnels. The atmosphere was oppressive, every sound amplified in the silence. Then, the EMF detector spiked, and we heard it, a low, mournful sobbing. Our cameras captured fleeting images, shadows moving just out of focus, faces twisted in agony. It felt like the air was thick with the presence of something ancient, something vengeful. We found an old, sealed-off section of the tunnel, and behind it, the remnants of a train car, long forgotten. Inside, we discovered old newspaper clippings about a train accident in the 1960s, never reported, never acknowledged by the subway authorities. The victims were all young, their stories buried in time. The realization hit us hard. These spirits, trapped in a loop of their final moments, were crying out for recognition, for their stories to be told. We gathered the evidence and presented it to the authorities. It took months of advocacy, but finally, a memorial was established for the lost souls. Now, a decade later, the subway runs peacefully. No more unexplained deaths, no more sightings of the subway specter. But every time I walk those platforms, I can't help but feel the echoes of those lost lives, a reminder of the unspeakable horrors that once lurked in the shadows of the underground. Story number 2. Whispers in the Dark. 2012, a year etched in my memory, the year I worked the night shift at a suburban subway security office. I was 23, fresh out of college, and eager to start my career. But nothing could have prepared me for the horrors that lay beneath. My colleague, Alex, 28, a former police officer, was the first to notice the anomalies. Cameras glitching, radios crackling with static at the same spot every night, just past midnight. It was a quiet section of the line, seldom used, but something about it felt off. Then came the reports. Passengers speaking in hushed tones about figures seen in the periphery, vanishing when looked at directly. A young man, barely 20, claimed he heard his name whispered from the darkness of the tunnel. We took these tales with a grain of salt, attributing them to overactive imaginations. However, the night Lily, a 26-year-old train operator, reported seeing a spectral figure on the tracks. The air in the office thickened with tension. The figure vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving no trace, but Lily was visibly shaken. She refused to return to work, leaving us with more questions than answers. Compelled to investigate, we scoured old records and stumbled upon a forgotten tragedy. A decade earlier, a section of the tunnel had collapsed, claiming the lives of several construction workers. Their bodies never recovered. This revelation cast a new, sinister light on our experiences. One night, armed with a borrowed camcorder and a rudimentary EMF detector, we ventured into the tunnels. The air was heavy, charged with an energy I couldn't explain. As we neared the site of the old collapse, the EMF detector spiked, and a cold chill ran down my spine. We heard at first, a faint sobbing echoing through the tunnels. The camcorder's battery drained rapidly, dying just as a shadowy figure appeared in the viewfinder. Panic set in, and we fled back to the safety of the office, the sound of sobbing following us. In the following days, more reports came in. Commuters speaking of being watched, a feeling of presence behind them, only to turn and find nothing. The technology continued to falter, lights flickering, screens freezing. It was as if the subway itself was alive, breathing with the energy of the unseen. We compiled our findings, presenting them to the authorities. Skeptical at first, they eventually agreed to a more thorough investigation. What they found was chilling, remnants of the old tunnel, and within it, personal effects of the workers who had perished. In the aftermath, a small memorial was erected, a gesture of acknowledgement to the souls lost in the darkness. The disturbances ceased, but the memory of those nights lingers in my mind. To this day, I avoid subways. The echo of the sobs and the chilling presence in the tunnels a constant reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the unknown. The experience left me with a deep respect for the unseen and a lingering sense of unease whenever I find myself in the dark, silent depths of the underground. Story number 3. The Silent Scream. The year 2013 was one I will never forget, for it was the year I encountered the inexplicable during my night shifts at a subway security office in a quiet U.S. suburb. I was 25 then, young and skeptical of anything that couldn't be explained by logic. My partner, Sarah, 23, a recent psychology graduate, and I were responsible for monitoring the subway's CCTV feeds. It was a routine job, until one night, our screens flickered and went static. When the image returned, it showed a distorted figure standing on the platform, then it vanished as abruptly as it had appeared. At first, we dismissed it as a technical glitch. But when the same occurrence repeated over several nights, always at 2:13 a.m., our curiosity piqued. We decided to inspect the platform during our rounds. That night, as we approached the platform, a chilling breeze swept through the tunnel, and an oppressive silence enveloped us. Sarah, usually the rational one, clutched my arm, her eyes wide with fear. We heard a faint whisper, like a distressed sigh, but no one was there. The next day, we delved into the subway's history and unearthed a chilling story. In 2013, a young man had vanished from the very platform we were monitoring. No trace of him was ever found, and the case remained unsolved, a cold file in the local police station. Determined to uncover the truth, we set up a camera to record the platform at 2:13 a.m. What we captured was beyond belief. A spectral figure appeared, walking the platform, then disappearing into thin air. Our discovery led us deeper into the mystery. We interviewed past employees and unearthed a series of unexplained occurrences, all linked to the same platform. A maintenance worker, barely 28, spoke of eerie sounds and sudden cold spots. A ticket officer recounted stories of commuters who claimed to see a figure resembling the missing man. Driven by a need to find answers, we conducted a night-long vigil. Armed with an EMF detector and audio recording equipment, we waited. As the clock struck 2:13 a.m., the temperature dropped. The EMF detector's reading spiked, and the sound of a silent scream pierced the night, captured only by our audio equipment. The events of that night changed us. We could no longer view the subway as just a means of transport. It was a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred. The subway authority took our findings seriously but could offer no explanation. The platform was temporarily closed for investigation, but nothing conclusive was found. I left the job shortly after, but the memories of those nights linger. The image of the spectral figure, the sound of the silent scream, and the feeling of an unseen presence haunt my dreams. To this day, the mystery of the subway platform remains unsolved, a chilling reminder of the unknown that exists just beyond the veil of our understanding. It taught me that some things in this world cannot be explained, and some mysteries are best left untouched. Story number 4. Shadows on the Tracks. In 2014, in a sleepy suburb of the United States, I began what I thought would be a mundane job working the night shift at the subway security office. At 22, fresh out of college, I craved excitement. But I soon learned to be careful what you wish for. My colleague was Tyler, a 28-year-old former military man with a love for the supernatural. He joked about ghosts in the tunnels, but I never took him seriously. That is, until the night the cameras went haywire. We were watching the monitors when several screens flickered simultaneously. On one, a shadowy figure appeared on the platform, then vanished. It was probably a trick of the light, we reasoned. But deep down, we both felt uneasy. Things escalated quickly. Reports came in from night shift workers about strange noises, like whispers in the tunnels. One cleaner, a 27-year-old named Rachel, swore she saw a figure in a 1940s dress disappear through a wall. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, we started digging into the subway's history. We found our answer in a dusty old newspaper clipping, a tragic accident in the 1940s, where a train derailed, claiming many lives. Fueled by this discovery, we decided to investigate the tunnels ourselves. Equipped with a handheld camera and a makeshift EMF detector, we ventured into the labyrinthine network of tunnels after hours. As we neared the site of the old accident, a sudden chill enveloped us. The EMF detector lit up like a Christmas tree, and our camera started flickering. Then, we heard it, a faint, sorrowful humming, echoing through the tunnels. We followed the sound, which led us to an old, disused platform. The air here felt thicker, charged with an unseen energy. As we stood there, a ghostly figure materialized before us, a young woman in dated clothing, her face etched with sadness. She reached out to us, then disappeared into thin air. We ran back, the weight of what we'd seen heavy on our shoulders. After presenting our evidence to our superiors, an investigation was launched. But nothing concrete was found, and our footage was dismissed as a hoax. The subway continued to operate, but the stories didn't stop. Passengers reported brief glimpses of the woman, and night workers spoke of unexplainable phenomena. But none were as vivid as our encounter. I left the job soon after, unable to shake the feeling of being watched whenever I walked those tunnels. The experience left me with a lingering sense of unease and a belief in the unknown. Now, as I recall those events, the memories send shivers down my spine. The subway, for me, remains a place where the past lingers, where the shadows on the tracks whisper tales of long-forgotten tragedies. Story number 5. The Echoes of Station 13. The year was 2015, a time that now seems like a distant, unsettling dream. I was 24, working the night shift at a subway security office in a quiet U.S. suburb. My colleague, Ben, 29, an ex-journalist, was drawn to the job by stories of the unexplained. I, on the other hand, was there just to pay the bills, or so I thought. Our routine shattered one stormy night when our monitors flickered erratically. On one screen, Station 13's camera showed a figure standing alone on the platform. This wouldn't have been unusual, except Station 13 had been closed for renovations. Curiosity piqued, we ventured to the station. The air was stale, the silence oppressive. We joked about ghosts to ease our tension, but our laughter was short-lived. As we approached the platform, our flashlights flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. A cold breeze swept through the station, carrying with it the faint sound of a child's laughter. The next day, we combed through old records and uncovered a forgotten tragedy. In 1975, a fire had engulfed Station 13, claiming several lives, including that of a young boy. The station was rebuilt, but the memories lingered, buried in the archives. Determined to uncover the truth, we set up night vision cameras and digital recorders. The footage we captured was chilling, shadows moving against the laws of physics, whispers in a language we couldn't decipher, and the unmistakable sound of a child crying. Our investigation led us to Lucy, a 26-year-old medium. Skeptical but desperate, we invited her to Station 13. She spoke of a restless spirit, a boy lost in the aftermath of the tragedy, his soul bound to the station. Armed with this new knowledge, we conducted a seance, an attempt to communicate with the spirit. The air grew cold, our breaths visible. The EMF meter spiked, and the digital recorder captured a voice, "Help me." We presented our findings to the subway authorities, urging them to acknowledge the past. Reluctantly, they agreed to a small memorial for the fire's victims. After the memorial was installed, the strange occurrences ceased. I no longer work at the subway, but the memories of Station 13 haunt me. I learned that some places hold onto their past, gripping it tightly, and sometimes, those who are lost linger, waiting for acknowledgement, waiting for peace. The experience changed me. I now believe in the unseen, the unheard, the unexplained. Station 13 taught me that beneath the surface of our modern world, there are stories waiting to be told, some of them longing for an end. Story number 6. The Phantom of the Last Train. The year 2016 marked my descent into a reality I never believed could exist. At 26, I was the youngest security supervisor at a suburban subway station in the United States, a job that seemed straightforward until the night shifts began to unravel the fabric of my reality. My teammate, Jess, 25, a graduate in criminology, was the first to notice the anomalies. It began with the malfunctioning of the security cameras at precisely 3:03 a.m. every night. The screens would flicker to static, then display a deserted platform, but one camera always showed a lone figure standing by the tracks. Initially, we dismissed it as a glitch or a prankster. But then, the reports from the night staff started coming in. They spoke of hearing whispers and footsteps in empty corridors, of a feeling of being watched. One janitor, 30-year-old Mike, quit after claiming to see a ghostly figure on the platform. Our skepticism waned when we experienced it ourselves. One night, following a sudden blackout, we ventured onto the platform. The air was unnaturally cold, and a sense of dread hung heavily. That's when we saw it, the apparition of a young woman, dressed in outdated clothing, standing silently before vanishing into thin air. Driven by a mix of fear and determination, we delved into the subway's history and uncovered a tragic event. In the late 1950s, a young woman had disappeared from the station, her fate remaining an unsolved mystery. Haunted by her story, we decided to document our experiences. We set up night vision cameras and EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, recorders. The footage was unsettling, orbs of light moving erratically, a fleeting image of the woman, and the EVP captured a faint voice saying, "Help me." We enlisted the help of a local paranormal investigation team, led by a young woman named Emily, 28. Her team brought more sophisticated equipment, and together we conducted a thorough investigation. The night of the investigation, the atmosphere was charged with a palpable intensity. As we reached the platform, the temperature dropped suddenly. The equipment flickered erratically, and a loud, heart-wrenching sob echoed through the station. The voice recorder captured a clear message, "Find me." Our findings sparked a deeper investigation by the authorities. They unearthed old records and discovered that the young woman who vanished had left behind a diary, hinting at her troubled life and mysterious circumstances surrounding her disappearance. The subway station installed a memorial plaque in her honor, acknowledging the tragedy that had befallen her. Following the installation, the paranormal activity ceased, as if she had found the peace she was denied in life. The events of 2016 changed my perception of the world. I learned that some mysteries demand to be acknowledged, and sometimes, the echoes of the past resonate loudly, seeking closure. The Phantom of the Last Train, as she came to be known, remains a stark reminder of the enigmatic world that lies just beyond our understanding. Story number 7. The Haunting of Line 9. The year 2017 still haunts my dreams, a reminder of the thin veil between our world and what lies beyond. I was then a 27-year-old night shift supervisor at a subway security office in a suburban town in the United States, a job that seemed mundane until the unsettling events began. My colleague, Nora, a 24-year-old with a degree in folklore studies, first noticed the peculiarities. Our surveillance system would glitch every night at 1:17 a.m., showing a fleeting image of a figure draped in a tattered coat on the abandoned Line 9 platform. Initially, I brushed off these occurrences as technical issues, but things took a chilling turn when maintenance staff reported eerie happenings. Mark, a 29-year-old technician, swore he heard whispers and saw fleeting shadows during his rounds near Line 9. Driven by a mix of skepticism and curiosity, Nora and I decided to investigate. We dug into the subway's archives and uncovered a tragedy. In the 1970s, Line 9 was part of a horrific accident where a train derailed, resulting in numerous fatalities. The line was closed permanently, but it seemed the souls of those lost lingered. One night, armed with a camera and an EMF detector, we ventured into the desolate Line 9. The air was thick with an unspoken sorrow, and a sense of being watched pervaded the atmosphere. As we reached the platform where the apparition was often seen, a sudden drop in temperature sent shivers down our spines. The camera's battery, fully charged, drained within minutes, and the EMF detector's lights flickered wildly. Then, we heard it, a distant, sorrowful sobbing that echoed through the empty tunnels. Nora whispered, "Do you see her?" I followed her gaze and saw a ghostly figure of a young woman, her eyes hollow with grief, standing at the edge of the platform. We reported our findings, but they were met with skepticism. Unwilling to let the story end there, we reached out to the local media. A small article was published, reigniting interest in the forgotten tragedy of Line 9. A group of local historians and paranormal enthusiasts, including a young investigator named Kyle, 28, joined us in a more thorough investigation. We recorded unexplainable phenomena, cold spots, disembodied voices, and fleeting apparitions. The collective efforts led to a public campaign to acknowledge the tragedy. In 2018, a small memorial was erected near Line 9, honoring those who lost their lives in the accident. After the memorial's unveiling, the strange occurrences ceased, as if the spirits were finally at peace. The events of 2017 taught me that some mysteries demand recognition, that the past, no matter how buried, can stir in the depths of the present. The haunting of Line 9, as it came to be known, remains a poignant reminder of the untold stories that linger in the shadows, waiting for the light of truth. Story number 8. The Forgotten Terminal. The year 2018 still lingers in my mind, a chapter of my life filled with unexplainable and haunting experiences. I was 29, working the night shift at a subway security office in a suburban town in the United States, thinking it would be a quiet job. How wrong I was. Alongside me was Ava, a 24-year-old who believed in the paranormal. She often spoke of spirits and energies, but I never took it seriously until strange things started happening. Our security cameras began glitching, displaying brief glimpses of a deserted old terminal that had been closed off for years. One night, the radio crackled to life with a distress call. It was from a patrolman, Luke, who claimed he was being followed by someone in the old terminal. When we rushed to help, we found Luke unconscious, with no sign of anyone else around. This incident propelled us to dig deeper. We learned that the terminal was the site of a tragic accident in the 1960s, where a subway train caught fire, resulting in several deaths. The terminal was closed and largely forgotten, but it seemed as if the victims' stories were not. Determined to uncover the truth, Ava and I decided to explore the terminal ourselves. Armed with a camera and a digital recorder, we ventured into the decaying space. The air was heavy, filled with a sense of lingering sadness and despair. As we walked through the terminal, our equipment started acting up. The camera flickered, and the recorder picked up what sounded like faint, desperate whispers. Then, we saw it, a shadowy figure darting between the columns. We followed, only to be led to a wall with old, charred remnants of what used to be a waiting area. We presented our findings to our supervisor, but were met with disbelief. Frustrated, we leaked our footage to a local blogger, sparking public interest. This led to a more thorough investigation by external experts. During the investigation, multiple accounts of unexplained phenomena were documented. Reports of ghostly figures, eerie sounds, and a general feeling of unease in the old terminal were common. This public scrutiny prompted the subway authorities to acknowledge the forgotten tragedy. A memorial service was held, and a plaque was installed in honor of the victims. Since then, the strange occurrences have ceased, but the memories remain vivid in my mind. The Forgotten Terminal, as it became known, taught me that some places are imprinted with the pain and tragedy of the past, and sometimes, these stories refuse to remain buried. Now, as I recall those events, I understand Ava's belief in the paranormal. The Forgotten Terminal was not just a place of transit, it was a testament to the echoes of the past that can sometimes bleed into our present, demanding to be remembered and respected. Story number 9. The Whispering Tracks. The year 2019 remains etched in my memory as a time when reality blurred with the inexplicable. I was 28, leading the night shift at a subway security office in a suburban town in the United States. It was a job I had taken lightly until the events that unfolded that year. My colleague, Ryan, a 26-year-old former IT technician, was the first to notice the anomalies. Our surveillance systems would sporadically malfunction, displaying static-filled images of the platforms. But it was not the glitches that unsettled us, it was the intermittent appearance of a faceless figure in the footage. These occurrences began to escalate. Maintenance staff reported strange disturbances, tools vanishing only to reappear in odd places, inexplicable cold drafts in closed tunnels, and the constant sensation of being watched. One night, a chilling incident shook us. A train driver, Laura, only 30, reported a harrowing encounter. She claimed that while passing through an unused tunnel, she saw a group of spectral figures standing motionless on the tracks. As her train approached, they vanished into thin air, leaving her visibly shaken. Intrigued and unnerved, Ryan and I delved into the subway's history. Our research led us to a long-forgotten tragedy. In the late 1950s, a section of the subway collapsed, claiming the lives of several construction workers. The tunnel was rebuilt, but the incident was swept under the rug. Compelled to investigate further, we conducted a series of late-night explorations. Armed with night vision cameras and EMF detectors, we ventured into the depths of the subway. The further we delved, the more we felt an oppressive sense of despair. Our most profound experience occurred in the very tunnel where Laura had seen the figures. As we walked through, our equipment began to malfunction, and a dense, inexplicable fog enveloped us. Then we heard it, a low, mournful wailing that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the tunnel. We captured this phenomenon on camera, along with shadowy figures that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Our findings were so compelling that they attracted the attention of local media. The subway management could no longer ignore these incidents. An investigation was launched, revealing the hidden history of the tragic collapse. In an unexpected turn, the investigation also uncovered that the tragedy was due to negligence, a fact that had been buried for decades. Following these revelations, a memorial was erected in honor of the lost workers, and a formal apology was issued by the subway authorities. Since then, the disturbances have ceased, and a sense of peace seems to have settled over the subway. These events profoundly changed my perception of life and death. The whispering tracks, as they came to be known, served as a stark reminder that some tragedies are so profound that their echoes transcend time, manifesting in ways that challenge our understanding of reality. Story number 10. The Vanishing at Verdun Line. In the tumultuous year of 2020, amid global upheaval, I found myself entangled in a local mystery that still haunts my waking thoughts. I was then 29, the head of night security for the Verdun Line, a suburban subway in the United States. What I encountered in those long, eerie nights defies explanation. My partner in this ordeal was Zoe, 25, a recent psychology graduate with a fascination for the paranormal. We often shared stories of urban legends and folklore, but nothing prepared us for what we were about to experience. It started with minor, yet inexplicable, technological malfunctions. Monitors flickered without reason, radios transmitted static-filled whispers, and the lights along the Verdun Line dimmed erratically. We brushed these off as quirks of an outdated system. However, the situation escalated when a night cleaner, Alex, 22, reported seeing a train pull into the station at 3 a.m., well after service hours. This train, he claimed, was old-fashioned, its carriages emitting a faint, eerie glow. As he approached, it vanished, leaving behind a cold gust of wind and a lingering sense of dread. Intrigued and unnerved, we scoured through historical archives and discovered a forgotten piece of history. In 1952, a train identical to Alex's description had derailed on the Verdun Line, resulting in numerous fatalities. The incident had been hastily covered up, and the train model was decommissioned. Determined to uncover the truth, Zoe and I began conducting nocturnal investigations. Armed with night vision cameras and EMF detectors, we patrolled the stations and tunnels. What we captured was chilling, spectral figures fleeting across platforms, unexplainable cold spots, and a disembodied voice whispering in distress. The climax of our experiences occurred on a particularly chilling night. As we waited on the platform, the air turned icy. A faint sound of a train whistle echoed in the distance. Gradually, the phantom train emerged, its apparition more vivid than ever. We watched in frozen awe as transparent figures peered out from its windows, their faces twisted in eternal anguish. Shaken, we presented our findings to the subway authorities. Met initially with skepticism, our evidence eventually prompted a deeper, more official investigation. It unearthed the hidden truth of the 1952 disaster and the subsequent attempts to erase it from public memory. As a result of our findings, a memorial was erected at the station, acknowledging the tragedy and giving a long overdue recognition to the lost souls. Since then, the spectral occurrences have ceased, but the memories linger. The vanishing advertent line taught me that the past, no matter how deeply buried, has a way of resurfacing. It showed me that some mysteries demand acknowledgement and that sometimes, in the stillness of the night, the echoes of history can be heard in the whistle of a ghostly train.